Hey everybody, this is Don McDaniel, WrestleZone.com. Today's date is February 15th, 2021, and I'm happy to have with me here today, I think, the best joke teller on Twitter right now.
I wouldn't go that far.
Did I oversell it too much?
Some of them make me laugh. There's a couple that are my favorites, but there are a few of them I'm like, boy, that one's gonna stink up the place. But people find them funny, so I just go, oh,
dude,
no.
It's like sometimes it'll take me a second to get it, and then I'll get it.
Yeah,
like, that's actually, yeah, that's good.
I've changed text now. I'm starting to put up pickup lines that don't work on my wife. So
I thought they'd been pretty good. I'm gonna just start doing that when I go on dates with people and see how they go.
Just give them a shot,
Right?
Hey, I wish I was cross-eyed. That way I could see you twice. See how it works.
Well, see, I am cross-eyed, so I can do that.
So it might work. You never know.
It might work. And like I can, so if I use this eye, my one eye goes super lazy here. So
okay.
I could just talk to somebody and be like, hey, I see you twice. It's amazing.
You're twice as amazing to me as you would be to anyone else.
See, Al, you helped me out. You didn't even know.
Hey, that's what I'm here for, man. That's what can I say? That's my age and experience coming out. That right. I've been there.
The sage wisdom is coming through. Well, something that you have, undoubtedly, I think you have sage wisdom in regards to wrestling, and I feel like with that, it leads to the talk of the expansion of OVW during the pandemic and what you've been doing with it. Can you catch a lot of the listeners or viewers up right now on how that's been going for you, and
sure.
how you came into like being the creative master of it at this point in time too?
With OVW, I served a couple different stints as kind of the creative direction or writer, if you want, or booker for it. The first one was when I was the head trainer for the developmental program with WWE, and I was with OVW at that time, and they had brought Greg Gagne in from AWA fame after Paul Heyman had been brought back up once WWE or Vince had bought ECW and they were going to relaunch it. Paul was down here in OVW writing TV, and then he was brought back up to the main roster, so to speak, to kind of oversee the new ECW launch. And Greg Gagne was brought in. Greg, very talented guy, but TV writing wasn't really his strong suit. So I kind of through him started writing TV. And then after he departed, I just remained and kept writing it until WWE ended their relationship with OVW and myself. And then during the time with Impact Wrestling, when it was OVW operated as a developmental for them, I kind of became the head, the booker, the writer, creative direction for that era. And then now, since I've myself and Chad Miller and a couple other partners bought OVW back in June of 2018, I kind of become again the head of the creative, writing the TV each week, which quite honestly, and in all seriousness, I don't understand why people are so enamored with or enraptured with the idea of wanting to be in charge of creative, because I'm telling you what, it is a monumental pain in the ass. It's an extreme responsibility that you have to carry every single week, that you've got to take what you did last week, make it better, make it bigger, take it in the same direction, but make it connect to last week to make sure it connects to the following week. And it's like, and then you can only do what the talent give you. No matter how grandiose your plans are, no matter how amazing they are in your head, if the talent go out there and go completely the opposite direction, you're screwed. You just, you're like, I can't tell you how many times people are like, well, I can't understand why he did this with so-and-so, or he's not doing this with so-and-so. It's like, well, they don't give me what I need when they're in the ring. Then the talent go on a podcast where, he's trying to hold me back. There's a glass ceiling. There's this political. I used to do the same thing, make the, same stupid comments. And it's like, no, buddy, once you walk through the curtain, it's 100% on you. So you got to give me what I need or I can't go forward. So
I can only work with what you got. It's like the Bill Parcells
that's
thing.
it.
I can only shop with the groceries if you give them to me. You gotta let me shop.
That's right. I can't buy artichokes if the store doesn't carry artichokes.
Right.
That simple.
That's just how it goes.
Yeah. But it's it's a challenge, and it's I enjoy it, which says a lot for my psychological disorders. And I'm clearly a glutton for punishment, and I enjoy working with it and helping the talent and trying to build them and direct them and help them potentially achieve opportunities on bigger and better platforms. So
yeah, talking to more about that too is like having that, being part of that, how like, and the change and the transition of the ownership and all that stuff, how has that been beneficial for you personally, and then for the talent themselves too? Do you see that coming through in a different way since you last were there in OVW to comparison to now?
yeah, it's when I first took over, there was a kind of a mindset, I think, of with the talent, that was pretty prevalent of hey, we'll just show up on once a week, and we'll kind of it's a hobby, we'll just play wrestler. We're not, there's no direction and there's no real standards. And you know um I came in and instituted the direction and the standards, and because I just simply I really truly fully believe that their success is my success.
Mm-hmm.
And without them succeeding, I can't. So I'm going to do everything I can to help them succeed, even in spite of themselves in some cases. And it's been a struggle. I mean, we've went through a reshaping and a development of the roster.
Mm-hmm.
Which will be an ongoing, continually evolving thing. But we're in a good place now, and roster wise, and people are starting to really understand what it is they need to sell and why they need to sell it, as opposed to what the popular opinion these days, I think, in wrestling is. In wrestling, the predominant opinion is that wrestlers sell what they do, and they as talent, that's what they're attempting to do when they're in the ring, is sell you, the audience. They're trying to sell you what they do, that big move, the exciting athleticism. When professional wrestling has always been about selling who the wrestler is and why they're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
That's what really motivates an audience to buy a ticket or watch it on TV. Drive television ratings is the who and the why, not the what.
Not the what. Yeah, I wrote that in my notes too, was that you talked to Steve Austin about, like, he mentioned overselling, like, when people go too much, like, oh my eye, or whatever. And, that kind of plays into it, where it's more so you made the relation. This was a couple of years ago. So you made the relationship of the comparison with Matt Hardy and the broken gimmick and stuff. And how it's more getting that, who you are, you want to define yourself in one or two sentences to a person. And if you're able to do that, then that's a good character you have and a good basis for what you're going.
All the major stars of wrestling are people that you could describe to your friends and family in a sentence or less.
Right.
You got to watch a show. You got to watch Raw with me. There's this guy, he's A, B, C, D, E.
Yeah.
The second a wrestler develops that's the key that unlocks, all of their success, is their ability to be described to anyone, anywhere. And, and a wrestler needs to understand selling is not acting like they're hurt. Okay. The art of selling, truly selling, is to sell, to get an audience to buy, convince someone who's watching you that what just happened to you didn't just only hurt, but that it may lead you to lose the match.
Mm-hmm.
And then the person doing the move is also conversely selling the idea that they're using the move to potentially beat you and bring themselves closer to winning the match. I think that's what's been kind of lost in translation over the last 10, 15 years, maybe 20 years, that the in-ring product has gotten so far away from that, that's why I think you don't see as much of a large general audience watching it as much as you did at one time. Because, let's, keep in mind that, and I use this analogy all the time, that the reason that football, baseball, and basketball have enormous audiences, the reason that golf is predominantly watched by rich white people, white men, is because predominantly rich old white men play golf.
Right.
Football, baseball, and basketball, we've all in this country, we've all played them, so we all relate physically to what's happening on the screen. That's why hockey has a bigger audience in Canada than it does in the United States. Yep. That's why soccer's bigger all over the rest of the world. The three biggest televised sporting events in the world are the World Cup of Soccer, the World Cup of Cricket, which I never did, and the World Cup of Rugby, which, because more of a population watches those sports than they do here in the United States. And with wrestling, professional wrestling, if you've never been inside a ring, physically, you cannot relate to what we're doing, but you can relate to why we're doing it, what we're hoping to achieve. You can relate to who we are as a person. And that's why we sell those two key things. We sell the who and the why, not the what. So
that's a very good point too. And I think too, I mean, maybe you can clarify this for me too, but like the fact that, somebody like me who's a fan and then who became like a writer for it and like just interested more so in that, I see it. I can't relate to what you guys do in the ring, but that might add also ultimately to like what a lot of the, like I've heard before is like back in the day, fans were supposed to look up at the wrestlers, like the ring was elevated up. So it's like, oh, we're looking up, and it's almost something unattainable in a way.
Sure.
Does that kind of make sense in regards to it? Like how it's still that separation, but there's still that like that separation of sports where I can relate to playing basketball, even though I sucked at basketball. But
me too.
Yeah, right. I rode the pine. I was a great pine rider.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Football, I was a guard and tackle. I guarded the water can and tackled anybody that came near it.
Yes. But like, so I can relate to that, but I think that adds to the added intrigue of wrestling and the storytelling of it, where you
I agree
those characters and stuff.
But it's no different than any other form of entertainment. If you were to buy a ticket to see Elvis Presley, right, the only place you're going to see Elvis Presley is on the stage.
Right.
If and I try to explain this because I get this a lot with wrestlers, when I have a conversation with them about managing their social media and being the person that you sold on TV, be that same person that you sell on your social media. Right. I give every young social media can be an incredible tool, and it can also be an incredible handicap in your efforts to make yourself a star. Because you don't want to be a great wrestler, you want to be a star is what you want to be. And in order to do that, an audience, everybody, needs to believe that you live a life they don't live. It's integral. And, that goes back to when Hollywood had back when they were the stars, they had the studio contracts with the stars, and nothing went out in the public without the studios having clearance on it. You know what I mean? They were so in control that they had actresses, have abortions, and, male actors were not allowed to publicly make it clear that they were married because it would hurt their draw. Because ultimately an actor's job is not just to act in a film, but it's really to motivate us, you and I, to leave our homes and go to a movie theater to watch them perform. And if they don't do that, they're no good. No matter how great an actor they are, if we don't leave the house to go watch them, they don't serve any purpose. Arnold Schwarzenegger was a terrible actor.
Yeah.
But he was able to make tons of movies. Why? Because tons of people left their homes to go watch him. And you have to keep that in mind, because your value in entertainment is only in relationship to how many people want to pay to watch you do it. And not because you're good, but because you can attract an audience. And when social media, make 2 social media accounts, one for your friends and family, and be you.
Mhm.
And only your friends and family can access you. But the one that's in public, you be the person that you were in the ring, that you sold in the ring 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You be that person, because then that way there's never a disconnect there, and there's never buyer's remorse for the audience that they bought into, invested in, and cared about this person that was sold to them in the wrestling ring, you know. And conversely with movie actors, the same, you know, that was where the gimmick of being a celebrity or movie star was created. Because if you liked Tom Cruise in Last Samurai, there was no guarantee that you'd want to buy a ticket and go see Tom Cruise in Mission Impossible.
Mhm.
But what are we going to do to bridge that gap and keep Tom Cruise in the public eye and keep you interested in Tom Cruise? Because he's playing different characters. Unlike yourself as a wrestler, you're only playing one character.
Character, that's it.
But Tom Cruise is going to play multiple characters, and each time his job is to motivate you to leave the house. Well, we're going to create the gimmick of being a movie star or celebrity. And now we're going to have Us Magazine, People, etc., that are going to show you pictures of him living a life that you can't live, and thus making you aspire to still want to be Tom Cruise and have an interest in him and what he's doing, so that when we advertise that he's going to be in this movie, you go, oh, you know what? I like Tom Cruise. I'm going to go watch him. That's the only purpose for it. Social media for the wrestler is the same thing. It's just that you're not just a celebrity, you're now the character, because you're not playing a different character in different movies. You're the same character throughout, which makes you more recognizable than a movie star is, you know.
Absolutely, because people are familiar with you and how you are, and they go through your ups and downs, your turns or your non-turns or whatever, all that stuff.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so talk about that a little bit too. Is are you currently training too, as you're doing like training talent
Yes.
stuff right now as it goes on, and then how
Yes.
much of that is like, how much do you have a specific focus when it comes to that element of it, that new added element of social media and different things like that, incorporated into the training process now?
Yes. So um, as a part of OVW, which OVW has always been a developmental, but we're not solely a developmental. My goal is to create a operational, which it has been in the past, but truly an operational regional for live events territory. For television wise and pay-per-view, because we're just now starting a foray into that area.
Yeah.
Because we have a lot more clearance on a national level. We're on 8 different national networks. We're in over 150 million homes nationwide. And then nationally, we're in 700 plus million homes. What with Roku, Amazon Fire, Amazon Prime, Sky Sports, and Sports International, which is a European sports channel.
Yeah.
So, you know, we can reach a much broader mass audience and create a platform for the wrestlers themselves. But my goal is to make a place where I can develop younger talent, inexperienced talent, and I can also create a base of operations that if you're a wrestler who's had a run on a larger platform, here's a place that you can come make a living. You're not going to get rich.
Yeah.
None of us are, but you're going to be able to come make a living and do what you want to do, you know, do the thing that you want to do, pursue the passion that you want to pursue, and reinvent yourself. Have a place that you can get exposure that then the bigger platforms can still see you on and see what you're doing, take an interest, and give you another opportunity to come back. And that's the one thing I think all the younger generation really need to really understand, is that one, you're never hired as a professional wrestler. You're not an employee. It's a business relationship between you and the promoter.
Right.
And two, since you've never been hired, hold on a second.
Yep. No
Sorry.
problem. That's all good.
Yeah. Since you've never been hired, you can't be fired,
Mm-hmm.
which means that your career does not come to an end simply because you're no longer performing for one particular company. It just means that if you've utilized your time, it's most effective while you were there to make yourself an attraction. You can continue to have your career for years to come working for other different companies around the world, you know. you don't have to, it doesn't have to be a be all end all to just get to one particular platform, one particular company. And then, hey, once you're cut from there, well, we're done, wrap it up, your career's over. Because if you're smart and you understand what the business is really all about, you've taken that opportunity and you've sold your product, which is your brand, to such a level that you can continue to make a living. You may not make as great a living as you did for that one particular, platform, but you still can. You can by all means still go out and, have a viable existence elsewhere.
Yeah.
So,
Um,
and to that point, one last thing for the social media.
yeah.
It's an incredible tool that this generation has that we didn't back in the day. Back in the day, we were totally 100% reliant on the wrestling promoters' access to television and where their television went, and that then dictated how well we could sell ourselves as a product. They now have in their own hands social media that allows them to market themselves and brand themselves to an audience all over the world, that they could become stars unto themselves before they even made it to a WWE or an AEW or a, put three letters together with a W in it.
Yeah.
They could
W.
just as long as you put a W in there, you're okay.
You're good.
But they can make themselves stars if they're smart and they know how to properly utilize social media. I mean, it's a brilliant tool to be used. Social media is not the problem. People that are using it are the problem. That's the issue.
That's the issue. It really is. Holy smokes. No, it's I'm so with you on that, because you look at, it doesn't have to be wrestlers, but you look at celebrities or anything like that.
Yeah.
And they like put themselves all out there a lot of the times. And it's just like
too much so.
And it's like, that is the detriment to social media. But if you put it in the right channel, where it's like, you look at certain wrestlers that do it, I'll say like MJF, somebody that does it very well. And then trying to think, there's a lot of other ones that don't
EC3 does it really well. Jesse
EC3
Goddard does it really well too.
Yeah. I do want to talk about him too, is talk about his development. Like, and has he kind of you say go and kind of redefine yourself? Has he, as the it's the national world champion, right? Is that the name?
national heavyweight title? National
heavyweight title. So how has he kind of redefined himself and remade himself in OVW at this point?
He has come back, and he was originally here during that time with Impact during their developmental program, and then Jesse has the benefit of having years of years of experience, and he's in a really good place because he has that experience, but he's still young enough and physically fit enough to where all those tools can fit together, and given the right opportunity, Jesse could have a great run for somebody, because he really understands now the who he is, and then how he can sell that, not only backstage, not only down the ramp, but once the bell rings, he can still sell that same person. That's another big aspect of it. Steve Austin, was a great wrestler. He really was. I mean, if you go back and you watch back when he was with, Brian Pillman's the Hollywood Blondes, and he wrestled completely differently than he did as Stone Cold Steve Austin. And let's face it, if he had wrestled the same as he did as just Steve Austin when he was Stone Cold Steve Austin, it wouldn't have worked, because as Stone Cold Steve Austin, the beer drinking, ass kicking redneck that flipped off his boss, Steve Austin wrestled like a guy that you would expect would wrestle like that. And another prime example is Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan was, quite honestly, a very good wrestler. He was brought in at a time into the wrestling business when you were a reflection on and held responsible by everybody in the business for who you trained. And he's not going to just get brought in and be allowed to just not know what he's doing. Come on. But he didn't do that, because you didn't pay to see Hulk Hogan wrestle. You paid to see Hulk Hogan be Hulk Hogan. And that's the key. And Jesse, I think, has developed that sense to where he not only goes in there and he's athletic and he's a great performer, he also understands how to continue to perform on that way that you understand. You still see the same person you saw backstage. There's no disconnect from backstage to the end of the match to backstage again.
Right.
It's one person all the way.
One seamless thing, and it's just like it could be a little bit elevated or whatever when you go out, but it's all there still, right?
It's all the same person. Yeah.
Same
The
person.
last thing you ever want as a performer is to really be the character backstage, really be the character on the ring entrance, and then climb the steps, ring the bell, and then that guy goes away.
It goes flat. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Because now it's you've not given me what you sold me.
Yeah.
I bought this one guy, and now I'm getting this other guy when the bell rings.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you're only going to be so successful then.
Right.
That's just the way it goes.
Real quick, I wanted to get your, like, we talked about Broken Mat Party. I wanted to get your opinion too, like on a persona like Orange Cassidy. Because he's clearly a defined character. Like I could describe him in
absolutely
a couple sentences or less,
which is what makes him so successful.
Right. So my question is for you: is that a long-term effective kind of persona that you can have over the course of time that people can relate to?
That's up to him. You know what I mean? With any persona, okay, it has to have depth.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because if I can answer all the questions I have about you as a character, watching you one time, well, I'm less motivated to watch you a second or a third or a fourth time. Right. But each time I watch you, I develop new questions. You're keeping my interest. You're keeping me always looking forward to watching you again, so that I can possibly answer another question about you.
Right.
And you've always got to not just create the character, and that's why it can't be a character. Mm-hmm. It has to be, in wrestling vernacular, it has to be a gimmick. A gimmick is who the person really is with the volume turned to the max. Like Vince McMahon, the character you see on TV is Vince McMahon, just over the top.
Blown up.
Yeah, Steve Austin really is Steve Austin. I mean, if you don't think so, watch his, he's got a new show on where he's sitting down interviewing guys, but you can tell it's Steve Austin.
It's him, man. Yeah.
It's not with the volume cranked to the max, That's what makes them work, Unlike any other type of performance art, wrestling has a very interactive, connected audience. And if they can sense if it's just a character, or they can sense it's really that person. Mm-hmm. And that's what makes it work. And that's what gives it depth and creates those questions that allow them a longer run, And then also, as a performer, if you're a babyface, you've got to understand what it is you're doing that's really getting you over meaning making the audience want to live vicariously through you. Okay. If you're a heel, where's your heat at, and what's getting you your heat, so that you can then continue to escalate that. But the reason you need to identify it, the most important, is every run has an end. And then when that run ends, you've got to understand how to get yourself back over, or get your heat back, so that you can continue the run. And that's 100% on the talent. I mean, they have to. And again, the deeper the character is, the easier it is for them to be able to pull that off.
Exactly. Because say if that person gets presented this storyline that doesn't necessarily like work, or isn't as solid as you want it to be, you can rely on everything else that you've done for your character
right. Well, and that too, that's where you as the performer, you have to speak up. Mm-hmm. And you've got to, but you can't say no. Okay. You never say no. You've always got to go, okay, I don't know about this. And you've got to identify what they're trying to achieve. What's the business? What's the purpose? What are they trying to accomplish with what they're suggesting to you? And then you've always got to give them a, how about this?
Yeah.
Hey, I'm not so sure about that, but how about this? What if we do this, this, and this? It'll still get you what you want, but it'll do it in a way that's more in line with what I think I would do.
Yeah.
Type of thing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if you don't do those things, then a lot of times you're going to put your own run at risk. So
that's awesome. Like that's what I wanted to talk about too, was like you mentioned to Steve too when you did this interview, was like how the downside guarantees have kind of put people back, like almost on eggshells.
They have.
On eggshells. So
made them job scared. Made them job scared, because now they have something to lose.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And so like them doing that and trying to find that balance of like, hey, like not pushing back necessarily, but not like, but like, hey, what if we do this or what if we adjust this? How say if a talent comes to you about that and they're in that
Yeah.
structure of WWE where it's like, ooh, there's a pretty big hierarchy and a lot of channels to get through almost, it seems, at this point. How would you convey that to that person where they're like, okay, I'm stuck with this really, really tough gimmick? Or like if they go into, let me put it this way, if they're contemplating signing with them because that's a big basis, it's the creative aspect of it. What is the kind of advice you give to them going into like something like WWE where there is a lot of filters and certain uh, protocol that they go by, I guess.
At the end of the day, they're still the talent. And Vince knows, and Vince would be the first one to tell you that the talent drive the bus.
Mm-hmm.
It's the wrestling business has always been the wrestler's business. It's not the writer's business. It's not the promoter's business. It's the wrestler's business. And when they walk through the curtain, there's nothing that anyone can do to help them. And there is nothing that anyone can do to hinder them. And if they're giving a direction that they don't quite understand or quite feel, it's their responsibility to take shit and make shoe polish.
Yeah,
that's it. And it's totally their, what they fail to realize, okay, is that there is no one formulaic approach to doing this. I know that they're all taught that stupid 7-step formula thing. That's going to be the death of the business.
Could you elaborate on that a little bit? With like,
sure, yeah.
how that
There's a very basic, very remedial approach to professional wrestling that's taught everywhere and has been for quite a few years now. And it doesn't work, quite honestly. It's where you as a beginning wrestler, and it's a big problem because the wrestlers themselves aren't taught the basics and fundamentals. They're not, a lot of them don't have real wrestling experience, so they're not taught how to really wrestle. And that's really ultimately where we're trying to sell you, the audience, that we are we're prize fighters. And professional wrestling is real. Now keep in mind, and this may come as a shock to a lot of people, but professional wrestling, the audience at large, the general audience, has known that professional wrestling is predetermined or fake for probably since 1920.
Yeah.
Okay. In 1976, I proclaimed to my family, love them all dearly, none of them Mensa candidates, okay, and none of them were professional wrestlers. I wanted to be a professional wrestler. Everyone, including my grandmother, God rest her soul, I want to be a wrestler. Why do you want to do that? That's fake. How did they know this?
Yeah.
Because everyone knew it and has known it for years.
Yeah.
But why have thousands of people upon thousands of people upon thousands of people continued to pay to watch it? Because they were able to be sold the idea, if nothing more than just during the time they were watching it, that it was about winning and losing, and that was the consequence. So if you aren't taught that, it's hard for you to succeed. So basics and fundamentals not being taught. Anyways, so wrestling trainers teach this 7-step formula. And what it is, it's a very basic, for want of a better term, for the learning disabled of wrestling to do, because anybody can do it. Because wrestling's an art. You're only limited by your own creativity and imagination. You can do it millions of different ways.
Right.
Well, unfortunately, you don't get to see that anymore because it's step one. Step one is to shine the babyface, which is a completely inept term, because the only way you can shine a babyface is if they win. And that happens at the end of the match, but this apparently happens at the beginning.
Yeah.
Okay. And to shine the babyface, which means the babyface now does his 2 or 3 high spots that really he's never really using to put the heel in any jeopardy of losing. He's just doing them to really outshine the babyface, make himself look better. Okay. Yeah. And apparently the professional wrestling is the only professional sport where one of the competitors for the first 3 to 4 minutes is completely inept and can't wrestle at all. He's just clueless. He can't do shit.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. You can swear on here too. It's fine.
But so the shine is just to look good. Okay. And then the heel, step 2 is the heel does the heat spot. The heat spot is where the heel, without doing anything underhanded, not cheating, not begging off, not any act of cowardice, nothing, just straight up man to man, eye to eye, does something bigger and much more aggressive and knocks the living shit out of the babyface, cutting him off. Does that not happen in every independent match you watch?
Yeah,
every match, period.
pretty much,
right?
Yes.
Okay. The problem with this is psychologically, okay, is that the babyface's job is to get over with the audience. It's the most important thing of business that we have to do. If we don't get the babyface over, we can't get heat. If we can't get heat, we don't sell tickets. So over, though, means to make the audience want to be the babyface, to live vicariously through him. I'll give you a real quick example. Okay, if we were walk outside right now and you were to walk out of your house, you see somebody setting fire to a car, it's not your car, right? Be honest, probably the reaction you're going to do is you're going to call 911, right, or you're going to pull your phone out and you're going to video it and scream World Star Hip Hop. That's about the extent of it. Yeah. And the reason why is because it's not your car. You have nothing invested. Yeah. You don't care. You understand? Yes. You know it's wrong and you're going to try to prevent it, but you're not going to take any personal risk. If we go outside your house right now and we see somebody setting fire to your car, well, the reaction is going to be stronger. It's going to be a little different. You're probably going to run over and start screaming and yelling at the guy at the very least, right, and try to prevent him from setting your car on fire. Yeah. Why? You have more invested. More invested. Okay. Follow me. Third time, walk outside your house, same guy, setting fire to your car, but he's got your family and your dog and your cat in it. Well, now you're probably going to run over and you're going to attack the guy because you're trying to save something that now has more value to you. Yeah. Okay. A heel's job is not to get heat in the match. A heel's job is to make that babyface the audience's car at the very least. Because if we don't make the babyface the audience's car, well, the heel can do any number of things to him and the audience won't care because they're not invested. Yeah. You follow? Oh, totally. The more we can make him their car, the more we can make the babyface their car with their family and their dog in it. The heel doesn't need to do 20 things. He can do one thing, and now he's just done it to everybody in the building. Yeah. That's psychology. Okay. So when the heel basically in one move knocks the crap out of the babyface, the heat spot, which is step number 2, he's just now become the babyface. Because let's be honest, who would you want to be? The guy that just did 3 or 4 high spots that amounted to nothing, or the guy in one move that just kicked the shit out of the other guy?
You're fucking done. Yeah. Well,
now he's become the babyface.
Right.
Well, now he's getting over. Do you understand? Yeah. He's now he's somebody you identify with. We all want to be the guy that's the badass. So now we move on to step 3. Step 3 is where the heel now gets his heat. The only heat he's getting was with me because they asked me to watch this match, and I've seen 1,000 of them, and I don't really care to watch another one. Yeah. So step 3, it's where the heel now gets to do all his high spots, which are, of course, bigger, stronger, more impactful, and much more aggressive than anything that the babyface did during the shine. Well, thus reinforcing, who do we want to be?
Yeah, right. I want to be the guy that kicking some ass.
We still not getting any heat except for with me, because I'm sitting at the curtain going, why am I forced to watch this again?
Right.
Step 4. Okay. That's the hope spot. That's where I hope you'll go home, but you won't, because you still have 3 more steps. That's where the babyface musters some kind of ineffectual offense. And again, without cheating, without doing anything underhanded, nothing that's deplorable, the heel straight up man to man, face to face, eye to eye, does something again and just knocks the crap out of the babyface. Thus reinforcing, we all want to be the heel. Yeah. We're still not getting any heat, still, except for just with me. So now we move on to step 6 or step 5. Step 5 is, I got lost there for a second. Step 5 is the double down. I don't care how long the match is. I remember even agenting matches in Impact, right? Mm-hmm. And I would be talking to them and they'd have a 5-minute match. Now let's be aware that by the time they had their music and entrance, which took a minute each, mm-hmm, they were lucky if they had maybe 3 minutes to 2.5 minutes of physical action in the ring. Yeah. And in that 3 minutes to 2.5 minutes, they would basically both collide or miss something to where both of them had to lay there prone on the mat in less than 2 minutes. I'm like, what happens in 2 minutes to where neither one of you can get to your feet?
Right. How out of
But
shape are you if that happens too? Like from that case.
but I digress, because let's go back to our other match where the heel is getting over.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to kill all of that right now, because now we're going to do the double down, which is where either the babyface and the heel hit a move at the same time, or the babyface moves at the last second, the heel misses a move, and now the babyface, who's literally had the shit stomped out of him for 5 minutes, is laying prone on the mat, understandably, because he's been having the crap kicked out of him.
Yeah.
And now the heel who missed one move or was hit with one move is selling as much as the babyface who's had the shit kicked out of him for 5 minutes. Well, now I don't want to be either one of you, because it only took one move to put a brakes on the heel.
Yeah.
And remember, at the start of the match, he couldn't even wrestle.
Right. So what's going on here?
Now we go to step 6. It's the comeback. A comeback psychologically is where it's supposed to be for the babyface. He's had enough, and now it flips where in the beginning his motivation is to win. Now his motivation is to kick the heel's ass and then win. Okay.
Yeah.
That's why you always wait till the last minute for the babyface to fire up and throw his punches and all that. That's changed. Now it's come back to life. So no matter how much you've done to the babyface, literally strung him up on a cross, stabbed him with a stake, set him on fire, it doesn't matter. He nips up and he's perfectly fine. Okay. Now keep in mind that Jesus was the most over babyface in the history of the world. You don't get more over than Jesus. Okay.
Right.
He had great high spots, cured the sick, healed the blind, walked on water, turned water into wine.
Yeah, people.
I can turn vodka into a one-night stand. Beat that, Jesus. Anyways, it took Jesus 3 days to come back to life. It takes these wrestlers 3 seconds.
3 seconds.
They're laying there dead. They've not moved for 6 minutes. And now all of a sudden, they're fine and they're kicking ass. They go into their comeback, which leads into always false finishes, which aren't false because nobody has a finish on the independents. And then they go home. So it doesn't work. And the biggest issue is if you're match 1, if you're an audience, you've watched match 1, match 10 is exactly the same as match 1. Everybody fights on the floor. Everybody does the shine, the heat spot, get the heat. Everyone follows the same routine. It's just interchange different outfits and different moves. That's it. And you're in a business where you're competing for the most valuable asset in the world today. That asset is a person's attention. How are you going to successfully stand out and become the thing that motivates an audience to pay to see you if your match is exactly the same verbatim as everybody else's match?
Right.
And the sad thing is, the really sad thing is that once you step through those ropes, that's the magic of professional wrestling. As long as you do it within the context of who you are and within a competitive situation, you can do anything. Literally anything. I use myself as an example. I have made people believe for several decades now that I can knock another human being out unconscious with a plastic head. It's not physically possible. I can't knock a toddler out. I've tried. And all it does is get their parents to call the police. I mean, the kid just falls down, cries, won't put it over. I'm like, sell, you asshole, sell. Tommy Rich got color for this. You won't even sell. Big Show got knocked out. Vader got knocked out. You got right up and cried. You're not selling it, not putting it over. So it's disappointing to see these guys, these young guys and these young women be relegated to wanting to just perform in that regimented formulatic approach, or what's become real popular today is what I call light switch wrestling, which is click, I get to do my offense, click, you get to do your offense, click, I get to do my offense. And we never get to see one person fall behind and have to cheer them on.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
We're watching a foot race, okay? And as they start out, they're even, and one guy pulls ahead, you know, and we never get to see the one guy fall far behind. And as we're getting closer to the finish, him race to catch up and barely beat the guy.
Yeah.
We basically see them start out, they're even, one guy pulls ahead, and then the next guy pulls ahead. Then the next guy pulls ahead, and then the next guy pulls ahead. We never get to feel like one of them's in jeopardy of losing. And that, oh my God, if he doesn't get up off the mat, he's not going to win. We just, it's, don't worry, give him 30 seconds, he'll be fine, and he'll be running again. And then give him 30 seconds. And an audience craves that. They want that. They desire it. They want to cheer somebody on. They want to feel like somebody's an underdog and that they're climbing a mountain or overcoming an obstacle, you know, or challenge. And with those formulatic approaches and that fear, that job fear of, oh, I don't want to lose what I've got, you know, that's what's limiting a lot of these guys these days. And the thing is that it's their business. I mean, they can go out there. Once they go out there, they can do it. You know, they just got to make sure they hit a home run. That's the pressure. You know, it's on them. I mean, they're free to do whatever they want. And Vince, quite frankly, he gives them the freedom to do it, but they better do it, and they better do it well. You know what I mean?
It's that fear that's coming into play a lot of the times.
Because now they have something to lose. Where before, back in the day, we were given contracts. I remember the first contract I signed in '95. It was like, you know, a catalog, Sears catalog thick. And the only thing I was guaranteed were 12 dates, which were TV dates. And you were paid $100 for each TV date. So you were guaranteed $1,200. So the motivation to want to make yourself a draw, an attraction, was always there, because the better
it fell on you, and
it did, and it does. Promoters do not make wrestlers stars. They provide a platform that allows the wrestler to make himself a star, so that then the promoter and the wrestler can capitalize on those efforts, and then both of them profit from it.
Right.
But ultimately, at the end of the day, it's the talent that make themselves stars, and it's the talent by taking those chances. Like, we would have never had the boon in wrestling that we had if Steve Austin hadn't taken that chance that time on that pay-per-view and you know, and went out on a limb. If he had never went out on a limb, we'd have never had Stone Cold Steve Austin. We would never have had the incredible, you know, boom of wrestling that took over popular culture. Just wouldn't have occurred, you know.
Yeah. No, it's
same with Triple H, The Rock. If they didn't take those chances and on themselves when they were out there in the ring as performers, they never would have reached the places that they went.
It's that, and that I think too, what adds to, I mean, I'm sure there's a dynamic to this too still, but like, it's that competitive aspect where it's like, okay, this guy's gunning for, you know, a spot I want. And, you know, this person may be on good terms with them, but it's also like, I think I was watching the Steve Austin Undertaker conversation where they were like, hey, this guy's kind of gunning for my job. And I see that happening.
Oh yeah.
But it elevates the stakes, and you got to rely on yourself to get. And
that's still there.
Yeah.
That's still, it's very competitive in that locker room still. Mm-hmm. But the problem is, it's easy if you have some kind of something that you can lose, but you also have something that makes you feel like, well, if I don't get it, I've still got this.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Where back in the day, you either made it or you didn't. And if you didn't make it, you didn't make money. You know, it was that simple.
There's that line that you can still rely. If you're today, you can be like, well, at least I have this and I'm still safe. You know.
Correct. There's that safety net where there was no safety net, and you either tried and failed, or you didn't try, and you just faded away.
Right.
And you know, I think that takes a bit of an edge off the performance.
Very much.
You know.
And, you know, like as a viewer too, and, you know, whatever it may be, you always, what's so great about wrestling is like that outlaw vibe of like that you're pushing back against, whether it's authority or just somebody you don't like or anything like that. Ultimately, like good versus evil and something you want to push back at, you know?
Sure. And for you, the audience, I bet some of the best moments were moments where those guys went in the ring and they took chances. They either took a chance in a match, or they took a chance. Most of the time, they took a chance, a personal risk on the mic.
Yeah.
That's the place where they really can hang themselves out to dry, or they can send themselves to the next level. And if, it's hey, I'm going to take a swing at this ball, and if I strike out, I'm done. But if I hit a home run, I'm set. And but you don't get that so much anymore.
No.
And that too, I think, is the fault of WWE, because I think WWE, because from what I understand, and I don't know, because I don't want to speak out of turn, but from what I understand, they really produce a lot of what they do in the ring, and they script a lot of the promos and things like that. And so talent are confined and aren't, are limited. But what the talent don't understand is that you can take the script, and you can, even in acting, put it into your own words, put it in the way that you want to deliver it. And as long as you convey the information, the who, what, when, where, why of the promo, if it connects, if it works, but then that's taking that risk.
Yeah.
Where if you just recite what's been scripted for you, it's no personal risk on your own.
No, you're just doing what's there for you, and what's there is not always what's you.
And it may not work, it may not click. You've got to know that as a performer, and then be willing to honor and respect who you really, who you as the gimmick are, and who the audience is connected with, and then be willing to take that shot,
right.
Go for broke, and I hope more of the performers, the young men and women, do it. I hope they take risks and, go out there and, go for the gusto, because that's what's going to make the business bigger and better. And it's going to take us back to where more general audience, Mr. and Mrs. Walmart, are going to start watching again. And it's going to start to be the talk of around the water cooler. You know what I mean? That's what's going to create another attitude era, is that, risk taking and wanting to stand out more and more.
Do you think that the aspect, so this is kind of like a two-part thing, is
Yeah.
WWE has the brand, and it seems like more so that a lot of the impression that people are getting is that WWE is making it more about the brand than the stars themselves. And then on top of that, do you think it going to the certain aspect of, like of it being having that star power, but it's still being like keeping the stars where they are, like at the top, like you think about the mainstream stars that are going right now. But then, do you think that pushback and that concern for the wrestlers, like going that way, is this making sense? Where it's like, how much of the brand is interfering with that ability to show themselves, or is that part of maybe a ceiling, but it's not the ultimate ceiling? This person can still get themselves over.
They can, because Vince wants these guys desperately to all get over as much as possible. Vince wants these guys to all be stars. It only benefits Vince in all ways, and he'll say it. I mean, it's the truth. He is totally reliant on whatever the talent do.
Yeah.
And if the talent don't do it themselves, he and the machine of WWE will try to do it for him, but it won't ever be the same as the talent doing it themselves. It just won't be. Yeah. And the talent will tell you, oh, there's a glass ceiling, there's this, there's that. Listen, it's not easy, but you can do it. You can be the man, you can be the girl, you can be the woman, you can be any of those things, but you've got to be willing to take those risks and believe in yourself, and be ready to compete and fight, and Vince will give you the opportunity to do it. He'll give you the freedom to do it. If what you're doing is good, he's not gonna do the sitting in the back and pull the glasses down, and that's the worst thing in the world. He's not going to do that. Yeah. He's going to, or you're going to give him something that he sees, and he's going to give you this and come over, and he's going to have a conversation with you and tell you how much more, what you should have done and what you shouldn't have done, and why you shouldn't have done it based on what you were trying to do. Right. But you got to try. You've got to be the guy. You've got to be the person that goes out there and tries it. Because if you don't try it, it'll never happen. It just won't. Yeah. And I try to instill that in the guys in OVW. I, contrary to whatever anybody might think, I don't tell any of them what to do or what not to do, unless it's I give them a specific thing in a batch, a specific spot or a specific set of timing or a specific finish to help to tell a specific story. Other than that, they're free to do anything they want, the way they want, as much as they want or as little as they want. That's on them. The match is on them.
Mm-hmm.
100% it's on the talent. Same with promos. I won't script out a promo, but then like lately I've got this guy, a character that I'm kind of doing, Reverend Ronnie, the good word. I'm doing an old time, like the Bruce Pritchard, Brother Love gimmick, where he has a talk show segment, and the guy he's very charismatic and he's really good at talking. And I'll tell you before you go out there, I'll go, look, here's what the business of this segment's for. The segment is for you. It's to sell you, but understand, you got to get over on him. Yeah. So it's up to you, not me. All right. To go in that ring in front of that live audience and outdo him on the mic. And if you can't do that, that's on you, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
And if you watch, like back in the day, like when The Rock went out there with Triple H and Triple H would make his little comments and those little marks, it was up to The Rock to get back over on
back at him. Mm-hmm.
Correct. Right. And if he didn't, then it was bad on The Rock because now The Rock didn't get over.
Heck, you look at that too with Cena and The Rock when they were jabbing back and forth like that. You could feel that.
And you could feel it. And that's what made it so good. And that was what made everyone stop hating on Cena, remember?
Right, yes.
Was the second that he could stand verbally toe-to-toe with The Rock, everybody changed how they felt about Cena.
Mm-hmm. It's very true, yeah.
But it was on Cena to be able to do it. And if he hadn't have been able to do it, it wouldn't have worked.
It would have fizzled out.
Yeah. And I really try to instill that in the wrestlers and the performers in OVW, is to give them that opportunity to get that experience on this level, so that if they ever get an opportunity on a bigger level, they're prepared. They've already been in a spot where they know they need to do that. That's why I made it a point to do live television. It's not because I enjoy it, because it's the longest hour of my life every single week.
Yeah.
I just want to murder myself every Tuesday night from 8 to 9. I just want to die. But as a wrestler, there's no other place that you can get experience on live television other than WWE, NXT, or AEW. Well, now you're in the deep end of the pool. And if you don't maximize that opportunity, you may never, ever get that chance again. And doing live TV, trust me, performing on live TV is completely different than performing on a post-produced show. So I make it a point to do a live broadcast. And the reason I do it is because that way, as a performer, as a wrestler, you can get an understanding of how it works, what's important, why it's important, and get experience in that environment, so that when you get an opportunity at a WWE or an AEW and they throw you in the deep end of the pool, it's not the first time you've been there.
Right.
You have experience, you're comfortable, you're prepared, you know what to expect, as opposed to, well, I've never been on TV in any form, or two, I've only been on TV and it's just been, it's a post-produced show, so I can make a mistake and they'll just fix it in post. Well, no, if it's live, it's one and only, and you're done. That's
right.
It.
Right. That's it.
Different kind of pressure, different kind of stress.
The spotlight is on you, and you have to perform right at that moment in time.
You have to produce.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So it's it's exciting because it's interesting to watch the young talent here evolve and develop, and you can watch them become more of a professional, and you can see that they're in a better place since when we first took over, and and hopefully if they do get an opportunity someplace, they'll be so prepared that they'll be able to capitalize to its absolute fullest extent, that they possibly can, and get a run,
Yeah,
that's it.
That's what you're going for,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I want to talk real quick too before we head out. Just a couple.
Sure.
Talk about the collar and elbow brand. I got your our shirt on. You rocking yours.
I got it right there. Looky there,
dude. This first collar elbow shirt I bought, and it's like it's the greatest fitting wrestling shirt I got. So
Really?
yeah, absolutely, 100%. Plus, yeah, I love Chad and what he did for the business.
Oh yeah,
He
he's
was,
one of my kids.
yeah. So talk about having, because it's so cool. Like even just looking at that website and stuff like that, there's so many different talents that are featured on there, from the Good Brothers to Enzo to Chad, obviously, and
Yeah,
you did something for Brody Lee too, I
Brody
believe.
Lee. Yeah.
And it all too also ties with Cauliflower Alley Club too as well.
Yes.
So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, talk about how that all came to be, that whole everything, the brand, and how you developed it.
Well, it was my partner and I, Rod Hicks, got together, and we, at the time I didn't know that there were other wrestling brands of, t-shirts and stuff, but I felt like, UFC at the time had, or did have it. Tap Out was theirs. And, if you were a UFC fan, you had Tap Out. If you were a football fan, you had Under Armour. If you're, basketball fan, you have Nike. You know what I mean? Everybody had something. Wrestling, they had the Gildan, basically bulletproof t-shirts with a picture of some man's face or on your chest. And I don't know about you, but I'm a grown man, so I don't want to walk around with another man's face on my
Another
chest.
dude on my face. I gotta.
Yeah, another dude on my. Oh yeah, it's like I don't want that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just creepy. So, and not to mention, if you're a wrestling fan and you were wearing other wrestling shirts, you go someplace, inevitably you run into that one person that walks up and goes, "Oh, why do you want to wear that? Wrestling's fake." And it's like, well, thank you, Angela Lansbury. How long did it take for you to put those clues together with Murder, She Wrote? Like, of course I know wrestling's fake, you idiot. Jeez. Newsflash.
What?
Water's wet too. Did you know that? Golly. So so we wanted to find shirts in designs, shirts that were comfortable to wear. Like, that one shirt you always have in the back of your, drawer that you always try to get because it's just worn just enough to where it fits just right and it feels good. And so we wanted to get that type of quality material, and then put designs on like that. If you're a wrestling fan, you get it. Like, oh, look, yeah. And you'd see something, like the term collar and elbow, collar and elbow tie up. Yeah. So you got that. But if you're not a wrestling fan, you just see it and you go, well, that's kind of interesting. It's kind of just cool to look at, and you want to buy the shirt because it's cool to look at.
Yeah.
But you don't have to encounter at a party that guy that's like, oh, it's fake, man. Yeah, no, I know. What a shock. Yeah, thanks.
Nice Breaking Bad shirt.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you know that's fake too? It's not a documentary about dickhead.
No, he doesn't cook meth. Are you aware of that?
Did you know he was an actor? Hey, magic's not real either, buddy. Just Spider-Man was not a documentary about a teen being able to shoot jizz from his wrist and swing from it.
That's
what a shock. So, but so we wanted to, create designs and create t-shirts that people enjoy wearing and look to wear, and then try to get. And we take, in the wrestling business, I was taught we take care of our own. Mm-hmm. So when some of these people have passed, then we try to reach out and we try to help them, because that's the rule. Wrestling takes care of wrestling. And with the CAC, the Cauliflower Alley Club, was created back in the in the 50s, by and it was always there and has always been a charitable cause, which they do awesome work for former boxers and wrestlers, primarily wrestlers, who've had a career and maybe are in financial hard times, and they've been able to help them either retain their house, or they helped one of the handicapped guys buy a handicap accessible van. So they do great work. And so, that's why we always give everybody the ability to round up their purchases. And, it might only be 5 cents, but when you do that over thousands of t-shirts, it starts to really mount up to, or thousands of pieces of apparel, it really starts to mount up. Yeah. And then, when we first started doing it, we wanted to market the brand, and that's always, for a startup business, that's always a challenge, because if you spend too much money on marketing, then you're in the hole. Once you do start to make some money, you still can't make a profit because you've spent so much money to market the brand.
Right.
And Rod came up with a great idea for independent guys who have a recognizable brand. They don't have a recognizable identity. Instead of trying to sell their own shirts, which means for them, it's to invest $150, $200, $250 buying a large box of shirts, and then having to cart them around to independent shows and be lucky if they sell one. You're right. But now if we can get the independent guy to become what we called a sponsored athlete, which was where they got a shirt, they got business cards, and they get a code. And then if they sell 100 shirts, they basically were able to get $5 a shirt for every shirt they sold, which I think is 40% of the profit.
Yeah.
And they make $500, and that goes a long ways on the independents to kind of help them survive and allow them to, continue to, be able to apply their trade and get their experience. So, it was the endeavor. The hope was, if we would be able to create an identifiable brand, and then the guy were to wear the t-shirt that was sent to him and wear it on social media, promote it on social media, which helps make the brand that much more, make people that much more aware of it, so that if they see it at an independent show, hey, I like that shirt, here's my business card, use this code, you get 10% off. And then that guy gets a $5 kickback for every shirt that he sells. And helps the next generation of wrestlers survive until they make it to a point where they can actually make a living, being a professional wrestler. So
getting your own stuff off.
It was, the goal was for us to really try to, give back to professional wrestling, but still make a company that was profitable and enjoyable to be a part of.
It's a great balance. It's a great balance.
Yeah.
Badass shirt.
And badass shirts. Yeah. Make some badass shirts.
Yeah. Selling product, man. Okay, real quick. My favorite thing growing up as a kid, one of my favorite tag teams was the tag team dynamic of you and Head Cheese with
Steve Blackman. Yeah.
Yes. So I just loved how serious Steve was, and then you just tried to lighten him up a little bit. How was it working with him? And do you kind of keep in touch with him still too?
I haven't talked to Steve in a while. I've seen him a little while ago, and he looks amazing as he always has. Yeah, he still does. And Steve was that guy. That's why it worked. Was that Steve was so serious. And then legitimately, whenever you see us do any of the vignettes and all that stuff, it was me just trying to get him to crack, to get him to break, and just to be as annoying as I could. I love Steve. He's an awesome individual, an awesome guy, and that was so much fun, because we got to a point where we literally had our own show within the SmackDown show, because we'd get the ratings would come in, and literally our segment was like one of the highest rated segments every time, was when we did the little vignettes on the show. So it was and it was so much fun, because he was such a great straight guy.
Oh my God.
Because you could do anything to him, he would not crack it. Every once in a while he'd laugh, but it took a lot to make him laugh. Otherwise, he did not break character at all. It was so funny. And
so unsung, I think, in a lot of ways. When I go
and
back.
we were so opposite. We couldn't have been two more opposite. Even in the ring, like Steve he'd so desperately follow me around all day, trying to find me, to tell me his two high spots he wanted to do in the ring. Now I'm a guy, I'll just make shit up as I go along. You know what I mean? I'll just, so I know it would drive him nuts. And he'd keep trying to get with me to trying to call those two spots. And I'd just keep hiding from him. And I'll talk to you in a minute, Steve. And I'd walk off real quick, and I'd see him just starting to get mad. He starts, oh my God, I just want to tell you this, and then I even called him out on it. I'm like, you're the lethal weapon. Every time you call a high spot, you miss a kick. Do you understand? You're a guy that should never miss kicks. You should hit every one of them, but you have these guys ducking them. That doesn't make any sense, man. What are you doing? It was funny. He was, I remember Christian and I used to have a running joke that Steve was, whenever we left, we went off the road and we went back home, that Steve's hobby was stalking Christian, trying to plan how to murder him, because Christian would make, one night in Pennsylvania, Steve was calling what he wanted to do in the ring with, it was me and him against, I think, Christian and Edge or something. And Christian just kept standing there dead serious, wouldn't crack a smile. And Steve would say, I'm going to do blah, blah, blah. And Christian go, not going to sell that. And then Steve would act like he didn't hear it. And he'd call something else. Yeah. Right. And Christian go, man, I'll duck that, and just blow it off like big deal. Right. And he did that like 4 or 5 times. And then Steve just turned to him and looked at him and goes, yeah, that's real funny. And walked off. And I went, you're going to die. You understand? He's got a dark room in his house that has pictures of you, like leaving the store, getting in your car, going to the airport. He's tracking you. He's waiting for the right moment to finally pick his spot, and you're going to disappear because you keep screwing with him.
He's got a picture of Christian hanging on a speed bag, and he's just roundhousing it.
Just beating the shit out of it. Yeah. Yeah, so it became a running joke with Christian and I for a long time about, what did Steve do when he was at home? Well, he followed you, hung out in a tree, took pictures of you in your backyard, and, just picking the right moment to spring the trap. So that went on for months.
That's fantastic. That's how you sell tickets right there.
Oh yeah, watch Steve tracking Christian's every move.
Creeping on Christian.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, another guy funny. You hit it off with is does Mick Foley send you insulting texts at all still or anything?
No. He usually just does them in public. That's usually his tact. Yeah.
Just hoping he wasn't taking digs at you behind.
Yeah. What's funny is, back before and when we were in the locker room, Mick would tell everybody, I want to be a stand-up comedian when I get done wrestling. We'd all laugh. And now he's a stand-up comedian. Nobody's laughing. So.
That's good, man. Holy shit. Where do you get your comedy? Like, who's inspired you to be where do you get your sense of humor, do you feel?
I don't know. People send me stuff and I find stuff, and once in a while I'll make stuff up, so it's not 100% me. I wish I could take credit for all the jokes and stuff, but
take credit for it.
Yeah, just take credit for it. Yeah. But I like funny stuff. I like to be entertaining, and there's so much negativity on social media, and I just don't see any sense in it. And I just want to put fun, goofy stuff up and make people laugh, and just maybe forget about things for a while. So, I use my wife, who's a saint, a lot of times in the jokes, and one of my favorites is when she walked in the other night and asked what's on TV, and I went, apparently Dust, and then the fight started. I saw that. Yeah. So that one makes me, they make me laugh while I'm thinking of them, or I write them. I go, that's a good one.
That's quality,
I've actually that genuinely makes me laugh. Like, I find that funny.
Yeah. Al, by the way, how did they follow you on Twitter?
At the Real Al Snow, on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. You can follow me at the Real Al Snow, because there were some people who were imposters. And if you do fake being me, understand, I'm just going to send you a message and go, come on, man, set the bar higher. I mean, really, if you're going to fake being a celebrity, why not George Clooney or Brad Pitt or, John Cena, somebody like The Rock? Why me? I mean, come on. Is it because I'm an easy target? I mean, nobody's really going to notice. Jesus Christ.
They all want to be you, Al. It's just that's how it goes.
Well, I would have higher aspirations. Trust me. I would.
Maybe they all want head.
Well, I think we all do.
I think so.
And I want to clear something up real quick. I want everybody to understand that was not meant as a double entendre. I swear to God, it wasn't. It was, and I never really had this conversation with Vince, which was my mistake. But I kind of did it later anyways. When I fought the Head, I had a hardcore match with the Head, things like that. But I wanted to have a full-blown, all-out angle with the Head. Yeah. So when you listen, if you pay attention, when I do what does everybody want, what does everybody need, I get angrier as I do it, because I'm getting jealous of the Head. So at one point I was going to finally, like everybody else does, I was going to turn on it backstage. and I was going to start fighting with the head and and we'd literally, like you would see between two normal people, attacking each other and cutting promos on each other. I was going to do that with the head, where I was going to,
Yeah.
basically have an angle where I thought that I was actually, because I was jealous of the head, because what does everybody want? What does everybody need? What does everybody love? Not Al Snow.
Al Snow.
You love the head. And it's like, oh, God, I've tried all these years for it to be a star, and now the head's the star,
Just imagine you like slowly walking by at JCPenney and seeing mannequins and like just staring at you.
Just, you son of a bitch. Oh, I swear to God. Get a fight with a mannequin at the store. That'd be tremendous.
You think you're better than me?
Yeah. Who do you think you are? Got a big fancy job here at Macy's? Okay. Yeah. It could have had a lot of fun. Could have
really
been a lot of fun.
Really.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Al. It's been great, man.
Thank you. I really appreciate the time. And if anybody wants any more information on OVW, they can go to ovwrestling.com. You can see where we're broadcast on all the different national networks. If you have any interest in the Al Snow Wrestling Academy, which is the training aspect, ASWA, which is the only state accredited trade school for professional wrestling, sports, entertainment, and broadcast in the world. Actually an actual accredited educational center as a trade school. So you go to aswa.live and you can find out more information on how you can enroll and be a part of the school. The one thing that we offer as part of the training is the residency, which is basically experience, because we actually do our own live television show and live events, just like a real, true promotional operation. And you will get that opportunity to get that experience before you were to go someplace else, which is invaluable.
That is totally like what you mentioned about being live is super.
It's such a, I felt that it was such an important piece for the educational process that, I knew we had to do it, because there's no other place for these young talent to get that experience and that understanding prior to then getting an opportunity with, and then being placed right on. Now, NXT, you were able to get groomed and, get the experience before you were put on a national exposure. But, now it's on USA Network. So, and it's live. So, now it's you're back out, literally thrown in the deep end again. And if that's your first ever experience on live TV, that's the last place you want to have that. You want that someplace else, so that you can make mistakes, learn from them, and then be able to go and capitalize on that opportunity in an environment like NXT.
You only get one first impression,
That's it. Yeah, you do. You don't want to make it bad.
You won't make it bad.
No way.
Nope. Well, thanks, everybody. This is Dominic D'Angelo. You can follow WrestleZone on Twitter at WrestleZone.com. You can follow me on Twitter at Dominic D'Angelo. And just go to WrestleZone.com for all your wrestling news needs. And definitely check out OVWrestling.com as well for Al Snow. And dude, just keep tweeting away, man. I'll be tuning in.
I'm watch the pickup lines.
You're my pickup. You're my date guy now. I'm gonna, like, anytime I'm seeking advice, I'm
just check them out. Yeah. Pick which ones you want.
All right.
I can't guarantee their success.
But that's all right. But it's all about, if you're on the stage, you got to take the opportunity and take.
You got to take it. You can't hit a home run if you don't swing the bat.
Right. The great Wayne Gretzky said that.
Yes, he did. Yeah. He was a hell of a baseball player, I'll tell you.
Oh, gosh.
That whole Canadian league, what amazes me is that they can run the bases with the ice up there.
Oh my God, unbelievable. It's just the skill. That's why they called him the GOAT, right?
Yeah. Yeah, he was like a mountain goat. Never fell.
Except on skates.
Except for on skates.
Yeah. Right. Thanks, guys.